Welcome to this, the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. A stormy Wednesday, as they say. It's continuing to be quite blustery out there. The forecast, at least of the windows of the Todd Veinotte Show out of the Rick House studio, are kind of held true to what the forecast had said for the last little bit. We did have a brief interlude there, I don't know, about an hour ago, where we had those great big cornflake-like sized flakes. But those have disappeared now, and it continues to rain. But my goodness, it certainly is windy out there. It still is a big power outage that's impacting a lot of people across the province. Last time I checked the outage map, it was well over 20,000 people. The biggest one in our area is currently from Portland Estates and stretching down towards Eastern Passage. That one continues. That one's been on for several hours now, and waking up on a December morning with a windstorm like we're experiencing now, and that driving rain, and getting dressed and ready for school or ready for work and with no lights on is not a pleasant experience. So I'm sending my thoughts out to those that are impacted by it today. But at the end of the day, HRCE schools remained in session today. There were some school boards, or school regional centers for education, I guess, that shuttered their classes today, particularly in the more harder hit areas that this system brought some snow to. I'm thinking Cumberland, Colchester, and the Annapolis Valley, and up into Cape Breton with the Cape Breton Victoria Regional Center for Education. The forecast I looked at about an hour ago suggesting that another 10 centimeters this morning. It's supposed to taper off by afternoon, so I think we're past the worst of it now. The winds will still be gusty and blustery out there, but I think we're past the precipitation, the worst part, at least here in HRM. Places to the west, Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick are still in the teeth of this. And the forecast was calling in northern parts of Cape Breton, Cheticamp, and areas north of there. Our first experience with the new Environment Canada color coding system. Have you seen this? The Environment Canada is trying to make it easier, they say, for us as consumers of weather to understand the severity of these storms. And for the most part, it is three different color codes. There's yellow, and then there's orange, and then there's, of course, red. And we saw yellow warnings in places like Annapolis Valley down towards Digby, in that swath that saw more snow than rain from this. There was an orange warning that was issued up in Cape Breton yesterday and then through this morning. And they were warning that some places locally there could see anywhere from 30 to 50 centimeters of snow. Now, I don't know if that happened, but that one is that would be a little difficult to swallow at the beginning of December in this part of the world, right? I know that we get snow, and I know, and I got some emails from people complaining that we talk about the weather too much. But this is really the first one of the year, and that's what it could have been, folks. If this was a little bit of a different track and a little bit, couple of degrees cooler. When I came in this morning around 4 to help out in the newsroom to get everything up and running today, and it was 3 degrees when I left home. So a couple of degrees cooler, and that what we saw today could have been snow, and it could have been a whole lot worse. I know it's a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas, but it certainly is a reminder of what's to come. The bad news, at least from my perspective, is that once this thing passes by, we're going to get into a bit of a deep freeze here. A deep freeze in by perspective. It's going to go down to minus 10 or minus 12, so it's going to get a little bit chilly out there. So if you did get some snow, I don't know if Mother Nature is going to take care of that for you, but it's going to get cold here for the next couple of days. There's some happy kids out there, though, I'll tell you. It's the first real big snow day of the year. The what is it? The wear the pajama pants on inside out and backwards is the technique that the kids do. They tell me anyway, to try and appease the snow gods so that they can get a day off school. We just didn't when I was a kid, and I'm not going to get into sitting on the front porch, rocking my chair, yelling at the clouds. But I grew up in a snowy area, and I think I can count the number of snow days I had on one hand. So you kids are lucky, and I guess it's more jealousy than anything else. So we'll keep you updated on the power situation throughout the show today. I know that there are some of you that are listening to us in your cars or maybe by battery-powered radios, and we'll do our best to keep you updated there as well. In other news today, did you watch the debate yesterday at City Council? They took up the subject of the potential of, or I guess the best way to put it is they're going to take a look at the assessment cap and the any inequities that it is creating. And we've had a couple of days of pretty good conversation on it, and I do appreciate it. But Council passed that motion last night almost unanimously. Councillor Young, the only one that voted against it. Many of them during the debate suggesting that there's something wrong with the system. But most all of them said that they don't think that it's going to change because it would be a political football, and we know that the assessment cap was imposed by the province. So the province would have to change it, and a number of councillors during the debate yesterday suggesting that there's probably not a lot of appetite for that. So is this another one of these staff reports that will go nowhere? Many were saying at the council table last night or yesterday that it would be good to have this information so that the public understand how the cap works and why things are happening the way they are. Maybe I can buy that, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot of appetite even at the council level to wade into removing the cap. Lots of examples of stories of some of the stories that I've shared and others here on the program have shared about the difference in taxes being paid on different places on the same street, and that's kind of where, and you well know that's kind of where I've been at on this is it just doesn't seem like it's a fair taxation regime at all, that somebody that's getting the same services and has the same square feet and same house and same property and on the same street is paying a difference in taxes. But that might be something you want to continue talking about during the open hour today. What was interesting, and not that we're going to toot our own horn or anything, but what was interesting last night as I watched the debate, I watched it after it happened because I was doing things, but that's the good thing that City Hall does is that they post those council meetings as they're going, and then you can go back and check them out on I think it's the city's YouTube page, and then you can go back and watch them for yourselves, and that's what I did yesterday. And during the debate on this, the talk show was mentioned twice, so they're listening, folks. And in fact, one councillor even gave our frequent caller Chris a shout out during the debate. So I'm sure if Chris was watching that, it made him laugh. So anyway, that's where we're at with the contentious issue of the cap. Another story that kind of broke yesterday, I don't know if it broke, but we've got the confirmation on it now, is that minimum wage in Nova Scotia is going to go up again twice next year. By October of 2026, minimum wage in Nova Scotia will sit at $17 an hour. The formula that works that this is gauged by now is the cost of living plus 1%. So it's in an attempt to try and give business owners an idea of what's coming, right? Because when we have increases in minimum wage, we hear from people like the Canadian Federation of Independent Business and business owners and small business owners that say that they need some predictability in this so that they can budget for it. $17 an hour is still a long way below the living wage, and it's several dollars per hour below the living wage. And there's a good chunk of the population that are on this minimum wage. The interesting number that kind of jumped off the page for me when I was reading about this happening was the number of people that are on minimum wage or have minimum wage salaries that have a university, or I shouldn't say university, a post-secondary education. According to stats provided by the province, 39%, 4 out of every 10 people that are on or using or getting minimum wage for a salary have a post-secondary education, or or at least have some post-secondary education. That's a pretty significant number. 40%, well, 39% of the people that are currently drawing minimum wage as a salary have post-secondary. And very quickly, before we head off to our first guest today, I don't know if you saw this, the parliamentary budget officer in Ottawa calling perhaps the Carney government to task over its housing program. New numbers released yesterday say that under the current setup and the current regime, the Carney government is going to create 26,000 new homes in Canada in 5 years. We know we're in a housing crisis. We know that there's been an awful lot of discussion about it, an awful lot of people talking about different ways that we can build housing, different kind of flat packs and prefab and so on and so forth. But 26,000 homes in 5 years doesn't sound like a whole lot. Considering I saw a stat for HRM, and I think it was CMHC, but I stand to be corrected on that, that said currently in our municipality, there's about 13,000 units that are under construction. And that's right now in HRM. So by perspective, you would think that across the country there would be far more than 26,000 being created. Be interesting to follow that kind of debate. Today is Wednesday, of course, and that means that we will be welcoming Dr. John Gillis into the studio, well, not into the studio, onto the phone, for our regular visit with the doctor, our opportunity to have a medical opinion with Dr. Gillis. And that's going to happen after 11 o'clock today, so I hope that you can join the program and get those questions answered. And then, of course, because Dr. John Gillis is on at 11 o'clock today, we will be shifting the open hour until the noon hour. And, of course, there's been a lot of debate as of late on the assessment cap. We can continue that conversation. We can also talk a little bit about minimum wage, and I'm interested to hear from you. And whenever this happens, there seems to be two camps when it comes to minimum wage. One who say that it's not near enough, and others that say it shouldn't be what people are being paid as, and I'm putting quotes around this, as a career job, right? This should be a stepping stone and moving into other and higher paying things. But the bottom line, folks, is that there's a big chunk of the population out there that are currently working for minimum wage. And I think the living wage was, $24 that we saw? And now the minimum wage, after the two increases that we're going to see in 2026, will hit $17. So there's still a very wide gap in the difference between minimum wage and being able to actually live on it. You can listen to me as we stretch here. We're having a bit of a technical issue behind the boards, but Vanessa has worked her magic, and as our engineer friend Mike, and now we are able to carry on. So my apologies for yammering on, but when the commercials won't play, it makes for a long show. I'll say that. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, have you noticed the difference in your drinking water? Some out there are suggesting that it tastes different. We'll have a conversation with a senior communications and public affairs advisor with Halifax Water, Brittany Smith, when we return. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. It's a Wednesday. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. Anecdotally, I've heard from a few people who have been telling me that there's been a bit of a change in their water, and it has a bit of a different smell to it, and they're wondering kind of what's up. So when I saw a story come across the CBC's website a few days ago, it immediately started to trigger things in my brain about people asking me what's going on with the water. So we found it. We're able to get a conversation with a spokesperson from Halifax Water, and that's Brittany Smith, who has joined us on the telephone today. Brittany, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Dan.
I guess the first question is: are people just smelling things, or is there really something that's going on with the water?
No, since early fall, Jasmine has been present in the water, but only at our Pockwalk Lake, so serving kind of that Halifax, Saxville, Bedford area. So
it's called Jasmine. What is it?
So it's a harmless, natural occurring compound, and it's produced by bacteria in the soil and algae.
Okay, so it's always been there. Is the reduced levels in the water because of the drought? Did that bring it to the forefront, or why is it this year?
So we first found Jasmine present in Pockwalk in fall 2012, and not every year. It kind of comes and goes, but it has been present this year.
It's you said it earlier, but it's obviously it's harmless. Is it not going to hurt us?
No, and it's that earthy, musty odor taste, and it can be unpleasant for some. It's not harmful, and the water remains safe to drink, and we're still meeting all Health Canada regulatory requirements.
Is there a hack or something that can make it taste better? Do you have any advice for people who don't like the taste of the water right now?
Yeah, so we're recommending a slice of lemon or even a few drops of lemon juice can kind of reduce that odor and taste.
Also, Brittany, hearing from people, particularly in the North End, that in addition to this musty taste or smell, that they're detecting what they think is an increase in a level of chlorine. Have you added more chlorine because of this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so it's sorry. Go ahead.
Also, there may be people in kind of the Dartmouth downtown area who get their water from Lake Major, but due to the drought conditions, we were sending water from Halifax over to Dartmouth. So people in the downtown Dartmouth area would have been experiencing Jasmine for the first time this year.
So that's likely where it's coming from then. It's a new thing for them.
Yes, it'd be new for the folks of kind of the downtown Dartmouth area.
And I would imagine all this rain that we're having is good news for you folks at Halifax Water with regards to Lake Major into Pockwalk Lake, bringing those levels up.
Yeah, any precipitation is helpful, but reminder to all residents that we still are under voluntary conservation measures.
We're likely going to be there till, I would imagine, the new year, right?
We're assessing kind of every rain or any precipitation that we are receiving, and we're really needing snow this winter to bring levels back up over the winter and precipitation into the spring, so we're not in the same situation next year.
Brittany, and if you can't answer this, I understand that we had a big rain overnight and tonight. Any issues with flooding or anything that you've heard of this morning?
I haven't heard personally of anything this morning. Nothing from the team as of yet.
Well, that's good news, I guess.
Yes, definitely.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
That's Brittany Smith, who is a spokesperson with Halifax Water, as we roll along here on a Wednesday. So if you had a different smell to your water, I've noticed it at my house that it's not. It doesn't make you want to throw the water out. It's for lack of a better term, I guess, it's off. And that's what it is, because like where I live, we draw our water from Pockwalk Lake. So I'm assuming that is what this Jasmine is called. It's apparently this has been in the water forever, and is not harmful at all. In fact, it's found in things as Brittany told us, like in beets and in spinach and in mushrooms. The flavor may not be what you're used to, I guess. So Halifax Water suggesting maybe a drop of lemon or or something along those lines to make it taste better. But the bottom line is that you don't need to worry about it. Most of my stuff goes into a Brita filter or a filter in my fridge, so a lot of that taste gets removed. But slice of lemon probably do the same thing. And again, very important to note that it's not going to hurt you. It's a naturally occurring thing moving forward. Newsroom just reached out to me to tell us that the power outage continues here in across Nova Scotia. I'm just logging onto the Nova Scotia Power utility outage map right now, and currently about 29,000 customers in Nova Scotia are without electricity. The biggest chunk of that remains here in HRM is an area that stretches. It's moved a little bit now. It was originally in the Portland Estates area, and Portland Hills. That's kind of moved a little bit further south. It essentially starts now at the perimeter fence at Shearwater, and encompasses the entire Air Force Base. So I'm sure they're happy this morning. I know they've got backup power, and it carries on into Eastern Passage. So it's still about, I think, close to 2,600 or 2,700 people are without electricity. Nova Scotia Power is saying that it's the high winds that we saw this morning and overnight that are responsible for the outage. The bad news for you folks that are currently impacted by this specific outage is that the utility is now reporting the estimated time of restoration to be for 6:15 tonight. So for some, it may be a long and dark day on this stormy day. There's a couple of other scattered outages around Dartmouth this hour, and I don't want to say that it's the only one. There's a few, but they're not very large, not very big, but still province-wide. The biggest chunk right now I'm looking at is kind of into the Cape Breton area and towards Wolfville and Greenwood. There's a big outage out there as well, so if you're heading out that way, you can expect to have some interruptions with your power. But in the urban area of HRM, that's the biggest one right now. Right at that CFB Shearwater. So if you're heading out there, if there's some traffic lights that are out or street lights are out, or if you live there, you're probably going to be like that for some time. Now, we know with estimated times of restoration that sometimes it's estimated very, very long, and then they end up getting it done quicker. So let's hope for that. Getting ready to take another break here on the program. When we return, of course, the show continues. Highway 111. Yep, and the Windsor Street Exchange project. It's underway. You see the cones. You've been through it on your commute. The Windsor Street Exchange is always busy, I think is the way to describe that. Insanity, maybe. And it's going to get a little bit, I don't know if worse, but it's going to be different. And we're going to reach out to the city to give you an idea of what you can expect as you head into the Windsor Street Exchange over the next little while as this construction project continues. When we have a conversation with the program manager for the Windsor Street Exchange project, Megan Soroka will be joining us. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, it's going to be a huge project, and I know that many of you that are listening to the program today spend a good chunk of your day going through the Windsor Street Exchange. Some of you go through it twice a day. Some of you go through it more times a day, and it's going to be a while before this entire project is done, I will say, and I would imagine that there will be some changes to the way that you normally navigate your way through the Windsor Street Exchange as this construction project is underway. We know that the first real big phase is getting ready to take place. If you've been through it recently, you've noticed that there's cones in there and there's some preliminary work that's being undertaken. But this Sunday, there's going to be a significant change, at least in my opinion, a significant change in some of the ways that we approach the Windsor Street Exchange, and we're very pleased to welcome into the program today the person that has their hands on all of the reins of this thing, and that's a program manager for the Windsor Street Exchange project, and that's Megan Soroka. Megan, how are you?
Great, thanks for having me.
This is a pretty large scale project if you look at it at the scale of it.
It is, yeah. It's it's a $150 million project budget. We're looking to integrate some major changes in this intersection, along with a couple of major Halifax Water capital projects that will be happening at the same time. But it's really important to invest in this area because this is one of five of the access points to the Halifax Peninsula. It's an intersection that's already over capacity. It's a very important intersection for transit. There is a lack of active transportation facilities in the area. So we're looking to improve in all those areas.
Megan, anyone that uses the Windsor Street Exchange on a daily basis will tell you that it's in bad need of a renovation, for lack of a better term.
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned, it's over capacity now. Part of the driver of this project too is it is an important access point for the Port of Halifax.
Right.
So what really kicked this project off originally is funding through the federal government through the National Trade Corridors Fund, and the purpose of that is to improve access to and from the Port of Halifax. But in doing so, we'll be improving the flow of all traffic and transportation through the intersection.
It must be an engineering puzzle, right? Because it's in a spot that there's not a lot of real estate there anymore.
Yeah, we're limited in the space that we have, even though it's a large project area, and it seems like you could just remove everything and start from scratch. Right. But even if we did that, we would still be limited by there's the cemetery, which we do not want to encroach on. There's the Port of Halifax. And then also it continues to be a very important corridor. So one of the challenges we have with the design and construction phasing is how to keep traffic moving through the intersection as we complete construction.
And part of that's going to happen on Sunday when you adjust some lanes on the approach.
Yes, so it will kick off with a overnight closure of Highway 111. And so that closure is needed so that we can remove an overhead sign and put the final realignment in place. So you'll see there's some Jersey barriers out there now. You'll see that realigned. We're going to repaint the lanes. All of that will happen overnight. And then on Sunday, the new alignment will be in place. We have done traffic modeling of this change, and for the most part, it shouldn't have much of an impact to most of the traveling public that are using the intersection now compared to what they currently see. The one area we did want to highlight is the Massachusetts ramp to the Windsor Street Exchange. Our traffic modeling shows that ramp will experience some delays during the afternoon peak hours. So we're encouraging people to find alternate routes if they use that ramp. And we have also worked with our partners in transit to create detour plans for the bus routes that use that ramp, so they aren't caught up in any delays as well.
So just so I get it clear in my brain, it's the Massachusetts Street is the extension of Roby that people would normally take to head towards the Bedford Highway, correct?
That's correct, yes. And there are some maps up on our website, which is there's a link on the halifax.ca homepage. And of course, if people have any questions, we do have or concerns, we do have a project email address set up, which is wse@halifax.ca.
It's the release that was put out yesterday on this, Megan, says that this lane change, particularly in Massachusetts, will be there until the overpass is built, and I would imagine that's going to be a fairly lengthy part of this project.
Yeah. So the work we're doing right now, it's not. It seems like a big change. This is the first change that the public are seeing, but this is just still preliminary prepping for construction. Based on our timeline for this project, we plan to present the overall construction plan to council in March of next year for their approval to proceed, and that will kind of kick everything off. All of this work is just preliminary work to prepare for that. But if council provides approval to proceed with the overall project, this would be in place for up to 2 years until the overpass is constructed. And of course, there'll be other impacts and disruptions as we move through. But once we have approval to proceed with the overall construction, we'll be able to create a plan and share that with people. The communication on this will be similar to what we saw in the Cogswell project, where we shared, major milestones and information about how the traveling public are going to be impacted by our construction.
So just to sum things up, Megan, what we're seeing there right now is just the beginnings. It's getting the site ready for this project. Still awaiting council approval in the early parts of 2026, and at the end of it, if councils approve, is it a 2-year timeline or is it longer?
So the overpass construction will take about 2 years. The overall project we're expecting to wrap up at the end of 2028 based on our current timelines. And so, we'll know more once we have approval to proceed and get that construction phasing plan in place and communicate it out to the public.
Megan, I appreciate the update.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you very much. That is Megan Soroka. She is the project manager for the Windsor Street Exchange project. So what you're seeing out there now is currently just the preparation work, folks. We're not even at the final approvals yet, and council will have a decision to make because we know that this is part of the budget, right? It's a different part of the budget, but it's still part of the budget discussions. And if council approves it, then we're looking at a 2-year timeline. So it's if it's the Windsor Street Exchange is a challenge most days to begin with construction in there. It's going to be worse. So we will stay on top of this. We'll bring you the latest information on it as we move forward. It's a vital link there, and I hope that it's engineered correctly so that we can alleviate some of the problems that you experience and I experience and everybody that uses that exchange experiences on a daily basis, because oh boy, there's some days in there that it's at least for me, and I, to be quite honest, I try not to, just because of the traffic that's in there and some of the pinch points that we're all familiar with at the Windsor Street Exchange. But $150 million project to do this, and a 2-year timeline. So as I said before, we will keep you updated on this as we move forward. Time to take another break here on the Todd Veinotte Show. On the other side of it, it's being, I don't know if it's being overshadowed by some of the big announcements that are coming out of the Mark Carney government as of late. We don't have to go any further than the pipeline announcement last week with Alberta. But the federal NDP are currently in a leadership contest, and they're looking to find their next leader to replace the departed Jagmeet Singh. And one of those candidates was in Halifax, and we're going to connect up with Heather McPherson when we come back. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Back in minutes. All right, welcome back. As we carry on through a wet Wednesday here, I was just looking out the window, and looks like the rain's starting to let up, but the winds are still out there, and there's still a lot of power outages. So make sure you keep your radio locked right here to 95.7 News Radio. We'll bring you the latest on those interruptions and those estimated times of restoration as the day rolls along here. As I mentioned before the break, it must be difficult, and of course we'll ask our next guest the question, but it must be difficult to try and get any traction in the news cycle these days with all of the goings on in with the House of Commons and this pipeline deal that may or may not go forward, and some of the bigger news stories that are happening with regards to MPs leaving caucus and so on and so forth. But there is a leadership race that's underway right now for a federal party, and that is the NDP, and it has been underway for some time now. And we're very pleased to welcome into the program today to tell us a little bit about herself and her bid to become the next leader of the federal NDP, and that is Heather McPherson. Heather, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Is it difficult with all of the noise that's going on in Ottawa to try and get your messaging out?
Well, listen, I mean, for New Democrats, the goal right now is to rebuild our party. So it's not so much the mainstream media as it is talking to New Democrats across the country. You know, that's why I came to Halifax this week. That's my goal. That's what I've been doing since June is making sure that I'm sitting down with New Democrats. I'm talking to them about my vision for the party, about how we rebuild our party. That's our goal right now. And I think it's important to New Democrats, but it should be important to all Canadians. You know, when we have a strong NDP, that can push the Liberal government to actually do things for Canadians, that helps all Canadians. You know, the dental care program, the pharmacare program, the anti-scab legislation, you know, all of those things are really important. And right now, particularly as we see Mark Carney take a pretty wild swing to the right, the need for us to rebuild this party and to be present in Parliament is really important.
Heather, as you go across the country and you speak to New Democrats, what are they telling you about the party and where the party went wrong?
I think folks want to see us more focused on the things that Canadians are dealing with right now. You know, we had a great event in Halifax the other night. Lots of folks came out. And one of the things I heard a lot about was the fact that people are really struggling to get a home, to be able to afford a place to live. You know, whether that's even to find a place to rent or just even the idea of being able to purchase a home right now in Halifax. It's getting out of reach. You know, we are seeing massive corporations come in and buy up housing as if it's a commodity instead of a place to live. Folks need to see a real plan, a real solution on how to make sure that we have enough homes, that we have a proposal for that. I'm really proud of our housing strategy. You know, we heard that people are struggling with the cost of living crisis. You know, Pierre Poilievre makes these slogans about how he's going to make your life more affordable. He's not. We all know that. It's not going to work. But New Democrats have to be talking about those things, and that's why I'm going to be focusing on, you know, making sure people can get a job, especially young people, making sure that people can keep their jobs under the threats that we're seeing from Donald Trump and the threats to our economy. You know, making sure that we have a plan to make life more affordable and to make sure we're dealing with this housing strategy. And then, of course, as an Albertan, you know, what I'm seeing from Danielle Smith, the attacks on our public health care system. The Canada Health Act is a federal jurisdiction, and we need to enforce it. So we're going to be pushing on that a lot over the next few months.
Heather, you mentioned Mark Carney and the Liberal Party kind of with their shift to the right, and I don't think that's a secret to anybody. I think we can see it pretty clearly. We saw it last week with the pipeline announcement. That all being said, where should the NDP live these days when it comes to the political spectrum?
Listen, I think we should live where every Canadian who feels like the Mark Carney that they were promised in April, you know, the guy who said he was going to deal with climate change, the guy that said he was going to be elbows up against Donald Trump, you know, that guy's not around anymore. So the people that voted for a party that would do those things, I want them to see themselves within the NDP. So I want folks that believe in a public health care system, folks that believe that we actually need to invest significantly in what is a national housing crisis right now, that we need to have a plan for jobs. I mean, listen, I'm a New Democrat from Alberta. I've been beating conservatives since I got elected. I know how to beat conservatives, and we don't beat them by becoming them. We beat them by bringing forward an actual proposal, you know, to deal with the crises that Canadians across this country are dealing with right now. What I see from Mark Carney is appeasement to Donald Trump, huge investments in corporations, all while we're losing jobs, all while people are unable to afford groceries. That's not the solution that he promised. It's not the solution Canadians want.
Heather, we saw in the federal budget a $78.3 billion deficit from the Carney Liberals. How can the NDP bring some of the things you were discussing earlier, affordable housing and supports for those that are struggling to pay their bills at the end of the month with a deficit situation that we're in?
Well, I mean, look at the things that he's choosing to do. He took away the digital sales tax. That's billions of dollars that the tech giants were supposed to pay into our revenue to deal with, all the massive profits they're making. He took that away. He gave a tax break for people that have private jets and private yachts. There's two sides of a budget. He's cutting out the revenue, but he's also making choices to invest 5% in defense spending. Absolutely, we need to invest in our defense spending. We need to make sure that folks in uniform have the resources and the tools that they need to do their job. But he came to Canadians with a 2.5% increase. Investing in things like the Golden Dome is not where I want my money to go. When I knock on doors across this country, I don't hear from folks that they want us to spend billions and billions of dollars more on defense than we actually spend on things like housing. And let's be honest, he promised almost twice the amount of money would be spent on housing in April. So where did that promise go during a housing emergency? Because I hear about housing a lot. I don't hear about other things a lot. Investment, the subsidies that we have for big corporations, the subsidies for the oil and gas sector. Why are we investing in companies that are laying off workers? In Alberta, Imperial Oil lost 900 jobs in Calgary. We saw Algoma Steel get, $500 million and then lay off 1,000 workers. Mm-hmm. We see cuts to programs across the country that people are depending on. I mean, this government decided to make spending on oil and gas subsidies part of the budget, but refused to give money for Indigenous children. Like that's not the Canada I'm interested in building. That's not the Canada that takes care of people within our communities.
Heather, the NDP is in a position currently, right now, to defeat this government with the number of seats that they have in the House. As leader, would you orchestrate that? Would you take this government down and send us back to an election?
That's never really been the way I've seen myself as an opposition member of Parliament. So I was elected in 2019. Pretty proud of the things that we have been able to achieve. The dental care program has now reached over 6 million Canadians. Obviously, that was a new Democratic win. That was our program. But for me, it's always been about if Mark Carney wants to work for Canadians, if he wants to get things done for Canadians that help people in my community and communities across this country, I'm interested in working with him. I'm not like the Conservatives that just oppose everything flat out. If there's work that we can do together to get things done, great. But that's not what I'm seeing from this Prime Minister. And he has made no effort to reach out to parties to work together to achieve more for Canadians. And I think that's the message Canadians sent to our politicians. When a minority government is sent back to Ottawa, it is a message that we want you to work together. We want you to get things done. And Canadians right now are really struggling. It is getting increasingly difficult for everyday Canadians to make ends meet. Like one of the highest populations of folks that are ending up in the street are seniors that have never been unhoused before. So we need to be readjusting our priorities. We need to be taking care of people in our community. And if Mark Carney wants to work with us to get those things done, we'll do that work. But if he's just in it to make sure the wealthy in this country do better and make sure that corporations are doing better, he's not going to find our support.
Heather, we're almost out of time. Being an Alberta MP yourself, of course, the MOU last week was headline news right across the country. Would this be something that you as leader would support?
This pipeline's never going to get built. I mean, and I honestly think that it is such a dangerous thing. At the moment in time when Danielle Smith is, I worry that people don't understand how dangerous her attack on our public healthcare system has been. I think the idea that as Canadians we cherish a universal public single-payer healthcare system, and that she is attacking that, that is something that premiers across this country will try to replicate. Conservative premiers will try to replicate if they can, but this pipeline cannot be built in unceded territory. Without the consent of the First Nation people who live on the north coast of British Columbia, this pipeline cannot be built, and it shouldn't be built because we have capacity within other pipelines that are still available. They're still going to the west coast, and you have to do the work with Indigenous populations. You have to work with Indigenous people to bring them on board if you want to do major projects. There are so many other projects we should be working on in this country. Clean energy corridors, rail, high-speed rail, making sure that we're investing in the housing and the health care that we need in this country. This is a distraction. This is an appeasement to Danielle Smith, and Mark Carney should be ashamed of himself for that.
Heather, appreciate your time. All the best in the race.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. That is Heather McPherson, who is a candidate for leader of the federal NDP party to replace the now departed Jagmeet Singh. Gonna take a break. Blake's gonna update us on the news. On the other side of it, it's time for house calls. Time for you to get your medical questions answered. Dr. John Gillis will be here for the next little while to answer those questions for you. We're going to open the telephone lines right now. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. House calls after the news. Welcome back. This is the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show, and of course, it's just after the news at 11, and that means that it's time for house calls. If you have a medical question, you'd like some advice on something that is happening or has happened, here's a perfect opportunity to do so. Lines are wide open right now, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. That is the number, and the lines are there for you to use. So let's get as many calls in as we can, as early as we can, so that we're not disappointing you as we move forward. Very pleased to welcome into the show today Dr. John Gillis. Dr. John, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Leafs won last night, so that's got to put you into a good mood?
No, I mean, it's just the old cognitive dissonance, right? They'll be good one game, bad. Like they scored a touchdown on the Panthers, and then on the Penguins.
On the Penguins.
And then put 4 on the Panthers. So who knows?
Last year, if we'd have beat the Panthers 4-1, I would have said, all right, we're looking good, but the Panthers are just about as bad as we are.
Well, they're pretty banged up. Yeah, I was looking at that. So hey, take the win, and So I'm actually going to Habs Leafs on Saturday night. So. Most people I know don't want me to go because my track record is imminently.
Well, if they lose, it's your fault, Dr. John. That's just it. I'll come on the radio Monday and blame you.
Well, that's what'll happen. I'll hide.
Very quickly before we get into the meat of house calls, I know somebody that you know, and that is Jack Hanratty has been named as the coach of the U.S. Women's 15s team. That's got to be a big upgrade for him.
Yeah, we're really excited for Jack. I mean, Jack came to Canada for one of his first coaching jobs with our club, the Tars, and then he went on to coach Nova Scotia and, really almost single-handedly built our age grade programs and a lot of the things that have, been put in place here. He's an amazing coach, an amazing guy, and went on to coach Canada to the silver medal at the Olympics in women's sevens. And, took a job this year at Ottawa, which I think he really enjoyed. But when the national teams come calling with a chance to go to the World Cup and all those things, it's a pretty special opportunity. So we're pretty happy for our transplanted Irish Nova Scotian.
Yeah, he and I have chatted a number of times on the program, and he's as passionate about rugby as you are. So that's got to be good news for him.
Oh no, he's better than me. He does such a good job and inspires people, and the results are clearly there. And like I said, we're just so proud of what he's accomplished, and happy to have played a small part in it around here. But really, he's done it all himself, and he deserves it. So,
now we got to compete against him, right?
Well, that's it. But yeah.
Yeah, friends until we get onto the pitch, and then all friendships aside.
Maple Leaf first, exactly.
Got it. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you have a question for Dr. John Gillis, this is a great opportunity. Lines are wide open, folks. If something's been bothering you or if you want a second opinion on something, Dr. John will do his very best to answer it for you. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. This one from the email bag, Dr. John. It said, a couple of years ago, I had a gallbladder removed. Surgeons used anesthesia through the oxygen mask, I think, because I passed out after putting the mask on. So from that day, I've started to sneeze a lot. Even when it's just a little bit of cold air that touches my nose, irrespective of the weather, I start to sneeze. Sometimes, even when I feel hot in the summer, I sneeze. But things are worse in the wintertime. I keep sneezing continuously. I didn't have this problem before the surgery. I'm wondering if it's the result of the mask.
I mean, did it say how long ago?
2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to answer. I mean, you know, the gases they use for anesthesia, you know, you can theoretically be allergic to. It's a bit of a stretch 2 years on. You know, same with the drugs that they pump into you. You could be allergic to them, but again, it would seem unusual 2 years on. It you know, maybe something sensitized. You know, I guess what I would say is, if it's becoming debilitating, you know, maybe get a referral to an allergist. Try some antihistamines. I'm having a hard time directly connecting something 2 years ago to something ongoing.
It is interesting, though, that the writer said that they sneeze when cold air hits their nose. I sometimes have that problem. Is that common? When, particularly like when I leave the radio station and I walk out the door and it's like it was yesterday when it was a little bit cool and that cold air hits my nose, I sneeze immediately.
Yeah, there's different things that can trigger people, and some cold air is one of them. You know, some people it's hot air. It's often allergens. Everybody's different, so we think we all need to move to Grand Cayman and do the show.
Well, I'm glad it's not hot air because there's a lot of it in the studio here. I'd be sneezing all the time.
A lot of hot air and a lot of BS. That's right.
902-405. Thanks, John. 902-405-6000. 1-877-801-8255. Let's go to the phones. We welcome Craig to the show. Craig, how are you?
Not bad, and you?
Good. Your question for Dr. Gillis, please.
Basically, I just have it's a question about getting your immune system suppressed with the use of prednisone, if there's any great dangers or anything to be aware of.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. Prednisone is a steroid, which, you know, has broad anti-inflammatory effects, but does have some suppressive effects on the immune system. You know, for short-term use, you know, if you're taking it for 5 days for, you know, lung purposes or an allergic reaction, something like that, it usually doesn't do much to the immune system.
It's over 6 months, apparently. Sorry.
And what are you
on?
It's
over
for?
a 6 month. It's a condition they're diagnosing me with is autoimmune enteropathy, and basically digestive issues. And
that's fair. So look, it's you know, we say risk balance. So you have a condition that needs to be treated. Prednisone is the best treatment for it. It can lower your immune system. So we just, you know, we're a little more careful about watching for infections and that sort of thing. For most people, it's not a big problem. You know, it's not like having chemotherapy, which can completely wipe out your white cells or that sort of thing. It just merits a little extra caution when it comes to watching for infections is probably how I would word it, if that makes sense.
Thanks for the call, Craig. I appreciate it. Best of luck, sir. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Another email question, Dr. John. It says, hi, Dr. John. I got a bit of a weird one here that I can't find an explanation for. I have an average fluid intake during the day. I drink about 2 to 4 liters. I urinate normally, let's say 5 to 8 times a day, so nothing extraordinary is happening related to this during the day. In the evening, my usual process is to lay down in my bed, watch a little TV, maybe read, and then when I decide it's time to sleep, I urinate one last time, sometimes even if I don't need to, and then try to fall asleep. But as soon as I close my eyes and try to fall asleep, I almost instantly have to urinate. I wake up, I go to the toilet, I get back, not even 5 minutes pass, and I have to urinate again, then again and again and again. in about 5-minute bursts until I eventually get so tired I fall asleep while I still feel the stimulus for urination. During these occasions, I pee a little bit less than usual, but relatively normally, not just a few drops. What else is interesting, when I fall asleep, I don't wake up to pee during the night, only in the morning when I wake up for good. Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's not normal. I mean, that's either a too much intake problem, or it may be a, is this caller or the emailer male or female?
Said he's a male. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there may be a prostate problem or something else just causing spasm. I mean, some people just have irritation and they have to go all the time even though they're not full. That can be prostate related. That can be related to a number of things. Caffeine and alcohol are prime offenders, for just irritating the bladder, and you get spasm and a sense of urgency. So that probably should be investigated, a prostate check, a prostate specific antigen check, and may need some medication and or some testing to see what the flow issue is. But no, that's not normal.
Common question I get, Dr. John, about prostate is the blood test as good as the prostate check, or do they work in concert with each other, or should you do both, or does it depend on the situation?
It seems to change a lot, and the standard opinion isn't as standard as some of us would like it to be. The general rule that I stick to is to do a PSA test every 1 to 2 years, and to do the actual prostate exam every 2 years, unless there's a strong family history or symptoms. I typically get people to do the PSA every year and the exam every 2 years. At the risk of stating the obvious, most patients don't like having a finger shoved up their arse.
Got it.
Most health providers don't relish the task either. So I think it gets minimized for those reasons. If the person doesn't really want it, the provider's not so keen. Do you want to do this? No, I'm okay. I get that a lot.
Right.
But that's sort of the standard. But not as firm as we'd like it to be, or as clear as we'd like it to be, perhaps.
Doctor told me once that getting the prostate exam is uncomfortable, but having prostate cancer is a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like a lot of these things, and we've talked before about it. On the breast cancer screening side, great strides have been made. We do a really good job, and women are generally more open about these things, and on top of it than men. It's a struggle to get men to get their prostates checked and check for testicular cancer, this sort of thing. We have made progress with initiatives like Movember to raise awareness, and it is better, but we still, people need to go get themselves checked.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John is here for the hour to answer your questions. There's lots of lines open, folks, if you want to get in. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're back after the break. Welcome back. This is House Calls. He is Dr. John Gillis, and he is here to answer your medical questions. If you have a question for the good doctor, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Brian to the show. Brian, how are you?
Hey, not too bad. How you guys doing?
Good. Your question for Dr. Gillis, please.
The question I have here is I never got my flu shot or my COVID shot this year. But 3 weeks ago I had a cold, and the girl was thinking it might have been COVID, but I never ever got checked. See if it was COVID. Can you still get a COVID shot and a flu shot where you had the cold?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. If with confirmed COVID, we used to tell people to wait a period of time. If you're not sure, it could have been one of any number of viruses. I encourage people to get vaccinated when it's on their mind. So, I would suggest that you just go ahead and do it. There's no harm in it.
All right, Brian. Glad you're feeling better. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John, how is is it still viral out there like crazy?
It's just, know, it's everything. I was in the ER yesterday. It was very busy, but we weren't completely bed blocked. We only had 8 people sitting around waiting to be put on the floor as opposed to 20 or 30. So, when we have places to see people, we can keep up. It's a bit of everything. It's not. I wouldn't say the viruses are particularly bad right now. We, saw a few, but just a bit of everything.
Anecdotally, John, you work in the ER. I had a conversation with an ER doctor yesterday at the IWK, and we were talking about increases in particularly, obviously, at the IWK in kids that are showing up at the ER with electric scooter related injuries. Are you seeing that in Dartmouth too?
I wouldn't say commonly. Population probably using the scooters more is the younger crowd, so that's
right.
Probably why they're seeing that. I've maybe seen one that I can think of. No, but it does concern me. I think they're great for getting around. I think, the accessibility of transportation, bicycles, scooters, all that stuff is great. I just think people, need to be more careful. It's, you're still in traffic. Those things can move pretty quickly. And, I had someone just go right out in front of me the other day. And if I hadn't been, in a scooter coming quickly to a crosswalk, acted like a pedestrian, but we're going obviously 5 times faster.
Right.
And if I hadn't noticed them, I would have plowed them. They just came right out in front of me.
And the doctor at the IWK saying that some of the people presenting injuries that were consistent with not wearing a helmet, and obviously it's highly recommended to do so, right?
100%. Like, nobody's trying to tell you how to live your life, but it's not rocket science. If you're on a scooter and a car hits you and you hit the ground and your head hits the pavement, you lose.
Yep.
That's just it.
Makes sense. Thanks, John. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Jane to the show. Jane, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I have a question for Dr. John.
Sure.
Thank you. I saw an internist, and they did blood work, and I have low iron, and so I was told to take iron tablets. I happened to have an appointment with my GP the next day, went, and she said, well, because of your protein pump inhibitors, it's going to negate the tablets. So call the specialist back and discuss. In much of back and forth, specialist looked it up and said that the iron infusions that they said if it didn't work after 3 months, they'd do iron infusion, said the iron infusions will also not work. The same as the tablets would not unless I went off the protein pump inhibitors. And I'm wondering if Dr. John has any insight into whether the infusions would work, because my GP thought they would.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. The idea of it going into your bloodstream would seem to me that it would work. The idea with the stomach is if you change the acid environment, it won't work as well. I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't work intravenously. I'm sure there's something, but I can't think of it. I'll see if I can look that up for you.
I was going to say, do you know where I could find out? Like, would I call hematology clinic or something? Like, who would know definitively? Do you know?
Who was doing your? You said you saw a
internist. Yeah, cardiologist.
You would think they would know. Any internist that's doing infusions.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
No, I just didn't hear what they were saying.
Go ahead, Jane.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said the internist, the cardiologist, said he did not know. When the GP mentioned it to him, he had not heard. But in looking it up, he felt that it would be the same. Neither will be absorbed.
Yeah, I've not heard that. I guess theoretically you could ask your GP to check with hematology. I don't know if calling the hematology clinic is going to be useful, but if you were to ask your GP to check with hematology, to maybe give them a call or send them a note, you might be able to get an answer that way.
Good luck, Jane. Appreciate the call. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John, this is, I think, the second or third time that we've talked about iron infusion on the show, and I'm curious what it is. Is it like a blood infusion? How does it work?
Yeah, that's really what it was. It's kind of a dark liquid that we infuse. There's a few different formulations. I don't do it a lot in the ER, but we do occasionally when we see people who are quite anemic and trying to get them moving. As we've talked in the past, iron is obviously a key building block of red blood cells, and what we see when people's iron is low is the initially the count doesn't go down, but the size of the red blood cells goes down. They don't work as well, and then when the iron gets really low, both the size and the number go down. That's why people get anemic. So people often think I'm anemic because I'm bleeding. That's a very common cause. But having low iron, even if you're not bleeding at all, you're not producing the proper cells or the right number of cells.
Is there a simple reason why people's iron drops off so much?
For some people, it's diet. They just don't take enough in. Vegetarians have to be careful if they're not eating red meat. Of course, there are a lot of foods that are iron-rich, but they just have to be aware of it. For some people, it's absorption. It can be the proton pump inhibitors. It can be different digestive problems that affect your ability to absorb iron. So different reasons for it.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Lines are wide open, folks. We're going to continue this after the news. This is House Calls on the Todd Veinotte Show. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. This is the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show, and that means, of course, it's time for House Calls. Dr. John Gillis is on the line, and he is here to answer your medical-related questions. The number is 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you have a question for the good doctor, lines are wide open, folks. You can get right in and right on with your day. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Back to the email bag, Dr. John, and this one reads, "Hi, my sleep is described as awful. I'm waking up at least 7 times a night. I can fall asleep okay-ish. I take a bunch of supplements specifically designed for sleep, but I think that I need medication at this point. I'm looking for something I can take pretty regularly that helps me stay asleep. Info that may be helpful would be nice. I'm a 53-year-old postmenopausal female."
Yeah, so I guess a couple things. You want to look at structural things like snoring and dental stuff. So, the reason some people wake up constantly has nothing to do with medications or the like. It has to do with the fact that they snore or have sleep apnea worse, which means they stop breathing. Sometimes that's related to anatomy, sometimes it's related to body habitus, sometimes it's related to the position of your jaw. I went to see my dentist roughly 4 years ago, someone I've known, was dental school when I was in medical school during the Boer War. And, she said to me, "Do you wake up a lot?" I'm like, "Well, how do you know that?" She's like, "Well, your jaw's pulled back. You've got, tight jaw muscles. I got a mouth guard. I slept through the night for the first time. I hadn't even thought of it. I was basically grinding my teeth and waking myself up. Wasn't stopping breathing. But some people do this and don't realize it. So getting a sleep study, some sort of assessment, you basically wear something when you go to sleep. It tracks your oxygen, how much REM sleep you have, how many nightmares you have about the Leafs, losing Game 7 in triple overtime, that sort of thing. But what your sleep patterns are doing, and then they can decide if you might need a CPAP machine, if you might need a mouth guard, or if you're fine. Get that out of the way, and then, try to decide what the best type of, sleep supplement is. There's lots of options, pharmaceutical stuff, cannabis, magnesium, melatonin. It really, comes down to having a chat with your health provider about what the best option is in the context of other meds you may be on, and, side effects and that sort of thing. So that's where I'd start. But you want to make sure there's not something underlying first, and a lot of people forget about that.
Do you find it difficult with a mouth guard in, Doctor? I know you obviously wear a mouth guard when you're playing rugby, but when you're trying to sleep, because I don't know if I could do that.
It took a while, and it's an upper and lower one. When I first got it made, I felt like I'd just come back from 2 months in the desert, and someone put a big T-bone steak and a nice bottle of Chianti in front of me. I just salivating. I couldn't wear it, but they adjusted it, got used to it, to the point in fact, I'm waiting for a new one. I have to get a new one because the old one just was out of service and worn down. But I really noticed a difference, and I got used to it. Is the short answer. Once they adjusted it.
I hear that with people that go to a sleep clinic and they get the CPAP machine, and it's a transition of wearing something on your face when you're trying to sleep is a difficult one.
Yeah, a lot of people complain about that. Like the mouth guard, once I got used to it, which is fine. I didn't even notice it. And to the point, it was quite the opposite. Like if I didn't wear it, I'm waking up at 2, at 4, at 5. Yeah, so it made a big difference. And that's not for everybody. That it may not help people, but it's all the things. And then we didn't even talk about sleep environment, noise, darkness, all that sort of thing, caffeine, all the things that I violate every single day. I'm on computer device too long, drink too much coffee, but I don't have trouble sleeping. But some people, you sniff a caffeine after 4 o'clock and they're bouncing off the walls. So all the things that contribute to sleep.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We welcome Bud to the show. Bud, how are you?
Not too bad. It's kind of dirty out, but anyway, we'll move on. Doctor, what can you tell me about vascular dementia?
What can I tell you? I mean, vascular means pertaining to the cardiovascular system, the arteries and veins that are through our body. Vascular dementia refers to dementia, which is, a loss of memory or cognitive ability that occurs due to problems with that system. So, typically it is either a series of, small strokes or just damage to those blood vessels over time, restricting flow. So it can be, specific areas from like a blockage, a small blockage, or just inflammation and narrowing over time that, deprives the brain of, oxygen and proper flow and can be progressive over time. Is
there a cure for it?
Not really. I mean, once it's happened, it's happened. The key is try and prevent it. Control your cholesterol, control your blood pressure, keep healthy, eat well. Once, if people are having, strokes, and we see that happening, mini strokes or this sort of thing, there are treatments, aspirin and other anticoagulants to prevent further strokes. People have blockages in their necks and their carotid arteries. There are surgical procedures to help with those things. So there are treatments. Once all the damage is done, it is hard to reverse. But again, all you can do to control your cholesterol, blood pressure, and to get attention if you are having a problem does help in the long run.
Appreciate the call, Bud. Best of luck. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Back to the phones and welcome Peter to the show. Peter, how are you?
Good, thanks. I have a question. I injured my arm 10 days ago, picked up a tire that was mounted on a rim, probably weighed, 20, 25 kgs. And I felt something move in my arm. It kind of felt like it was between the elbow and the shoulder, almost like a jolt. And 10 days have gone by. I've been popping painkillers. Doesn't seem to be getting any better. Went into Emerge last night at the QE2. The doc that was there put me through a series of arm movements. And to make a long story short, he diagnosed it as bicep strain and asked me to go to a physiotherapist and keep taking the painkillers and said it could take a long time to heal. My question is, I know an x-ray would probably only tell if there's maybe a broken or a cracked bone. Would a CT scan not have pinpointed exactly what was wrong between the elbow and the shoulder?
No, I wouldn't use a CT for that. If they were concerned about the biceps tendon, they would probably do an ultrasound. Biceps tendon ruptures are usually pretty clear because the muscle pulls up. If you compare one side to the other, you'll see a full bicep on one side, and then you'll see kind of a half crumpled up on the other side. So presumably they would have assessed for that and determined that they didn't think there was a tear. That would be the next step if we think there's a tear. often it's so obvious, that we just send people to orthopedics, and a lot of biceps tendon tears, don't get repaired. They're allowed to either heal, or the bicep has two parts to it. Often the larger part or the other part will compensate, and often nothing is done. But if you're concerned and it's not settling down, probably an ultrasound would be the next step.
Hope you're feeling better, Peter. Appreciate the call. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. House Calls continues after the break. All right, welcome back. Dr. John is with us here. This is House Calls, and the telephone number is 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Just a quick email here, Dr. John. Somebody asking and saying, again, this might be a strange question. Seems to be a full moon or something today. But anyway, with all the changes in the world happening from day to day, do doctors still allow or offer a parent the ability to cut the umbilical cord after the birth of their newborn? Are you there, Dr. John?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, you just went silent for a second. Say that again, please. Sorry.
With all the changes that are happening from day to day, do doctors still allow or offer parents the ability to cut the umbilical cord after the birth of their newborn?
I have no idea. That is so for my personal and day-to-day life and my professional life that I have no idea.
So, there you go. We stumped the doctor. Good way to end the segment, huh?
I suspect in some cases, yes, that if everything's smooth and calm, that they allow it. I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't, but I have no direct sight line on that at all.
Fair enough. Dr. John, we're going to cut you loose today and let you get on with your day. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Very best. Thank you, sir.
That is Dr. John Gillis here each and every Wednesday to update us on the goings-on in the medical community. And I'm sure is probably going to go to work tonight and ask somebody that works with the newborns if they still allow them to cut their umbilical cord. I don't know. It's a good question, right? If it certainly was in the past, but I don't know if it still is today. Make sure you get your calls in next week nice and early, because that way we avoid disappointment. A couple of things I've been promising that I would update you on the situation with the power, and it's still ongoing. It does look, though, that the skies are clearing up a little bit. Looks like it's starting to dry up a little bit, and the wind is still out there, but I think that Nova Scotia Power is starting to get a grip on some of this, although there's still about 22,000 people in Nova Scotia without electricity. Dartmouth really getting hit kind of tough this time around. Dartmouth and Eastern Passage, there's a series of 3 power interruptions down there. The first one kind of runs from Cole Harbour Road towards the harbor all the way down to where the refinery used to be, kind of along the bottom half of the 111. And then there's, of course, that ongoing outage that has been most of the morning around Shearwater, which is pretty close to where the other one is. And then a third outage in Eastern Passage proper. So there are 3 different outages happening in that stretch. And the bad news that's associated with that is that the earliest estimated restoration time there, 6:45 tonight, some of them stretching into 7 o'clock. So, again, if you've been without lights for most of the morning, I don't have any better news for you. I wish I did. But that looks like it's going to continue on. The rest of the province continuing to deal with the after effects of that wind that we saw this morning as part of that nor'easter that blew ashore. Some places looking at, like I'm looking at Antigonish is 2,200, and places like Amherst at 2,400 and 1,400 in Port Hawkesbury and 2,900 out in the Windsor area if you're listening to us from out there. So lots of outages around there, and Nova Scotia Power saying all a result of the windstorm that we got yesterday. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show today that we saw Vanessa walking by the prize cabinet today. And normally when she does that, she usually has a yardstick and she smacks my fingers. so that I don't get my hands in there, because give everything away, but that's not the case. But she did tell me that she got in there today, and lo and behold, she pulled out a pair of tickets to the Mooseheads this weekend. The game is set for the 6th of December. That, of course, is Saturday night. It goes at 6:30 at the Scotiabank Centre. The Moose have been on the road for a long time, as our hockey rink turned into that curling rink for those fantastic 10 days of curling that we saw for the Olympic trials. But now it's been returned back to its normal state, I will say. And the Halifax Mooseheads are going to welcome Ruan Noranda into the building on the 6th of December. We, of course, will carry that game live right here on 95.7 News Radio. But if you want to go, here's a golden opportunity to do so, and you can do it on us. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. And we'll take caller number, I want to say 6-7, but I'll get yelled at. How about caller number 8? 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Isn't it funny? Best of luck. And I hope you win. But isn't it funny how these internet, these TikTok trends, this 6-7 thing, somebody was mentioning it to me, and I thought they were speaking gibberish. But apparently it's a thing. It doesn't have any nefarious meaning to it, from what I'm told. It's just a kind of a whatever, right? So anyway, Vanessa is particularly opposed to its use, so we won't use it anymore. We're going to get ready to take a break here. We got a few minutes to tee things up for the open hour, and I know the open hours all week have been fantastic, and I've been looking forward to today's discussion. Lots to talk about out there today. Of course, Halifax Regional Council yesterday debating a staff report, getting staff to dig in to the provincial assessment cap and to look to see what kind of an impact it's having on the housing market and what kind of impact or disparity it's creating as a result. Now, if you watched the debate yesterday like I did, you could see read between the lines from what many of the councillors were saying. By the way, the motion did pass almost unanimously. There was one dissenting voice, and that was Councillor Young, who voted against it. Everybody else supported having the staff report created. But if you read between the lines like I did during the meeting last night or yesterday, a lot of councillors saying that there are issues with the current system. Some of the issues that have been highlighted here on the program for the last couple of days. But reading between the lines from the debate, it looks like they're looking forward to getting a report, but probably aren't going to act on it. And the reason why I say that is the tone of the conversation and some of the comments from the councillors suggesting that this is a political hot potato. And at the end of the day, the decision on the provincial assessment cap is that of the provincial government, and they don't feel that the provincial government has an appetite to entertain a change to this. So this could be an exercise in futility for staff who are going to put this report together so council can read it and have it to educate their constituents, as was said at the meeting last night. I don't know how many constituents will actually dig into the agendas and read the staff report when it comes out, but I do know that this has been a touchy subject for many of you out there, and we can certainly talk about it when we open up the phone lines after the news here at the top of the hour and continue that conversation. But it's very interesting that even those sitting around the council table say that there is, or this system has created, inequities. I think it was Councillor Austin last night. In fact, I know it was Councillor Austin last night who described a situation in his very neighborhood where his neighbor across the street in the same house that's well over 100 years old, with the same property, same design, all things the same, bought that prize. Neighbor bought the property. I think he said it was 2020 and is paying a lot more property tax than Councillor Austin is, because Councillor Austin's been in his home for a long time and is capped at that with that assessment cap. I understand the argument. I understand the concern. And from what I heard from council last night, watching the debate, many of you have reached out to your councillors to raise those concerns about worries about being taxed out of your home. And I can appreciate that. But at the end of the day, it's about fairness. And I'm not suggesting that we throw the cap off and just start rolling people out of their houses. What I'm suggesting is that we need to find a way to make the tax regime, the property tax regime in HRM, fair and equitable. Because right now, in my opinion, it's not. Might be something you want to discuss when we open up the telephone lines here in a few minutes' time. Also, minimum wage. Province announcing yesterday that minimum wage will go up 2 times next year. And after October of 2026, minimum wage in Nova Scotia will be $17 an hour, which is still very much below what the living wage is. And I know, and I mentioned it off the top of the program, that I've heard the arguments from you with regards to this in the past, that minimum wage shouldn't be a wage to strive for. And I will suggest that people that are currently making a minimum wage aren't striving to make that minimum wage. They're looking just for a job. The interesting number out of all of the data that came out of the province yesterday with regards to this announcement, to me, was that 39%, 4 out of 10, essentially, of people that are currently employed in a job at minimum wage in Nova Scotia have post-secondary education. I often hear about the minimum wage. I often hear about, it's the kids out there that are the high schoolers and maybe those that are entering university or college that are working for these, if they can find a job. We know that youth unemployment is extremely high in our province. But that number is kind of staggering to me. The NDP in Nova Scotia say that we need to get that minimum wage up to a livable wage, which I think is $24 or $25 an hour. Maybe it's more. I can't remember the exact number. It's a long way away from $17 an hour. Business owners will tell you that will move the price of goods up, and they will lose or they will lay staff off if they have to pay that. So as we consider to talk about the affordability crisis here, I thought a discussion surrounding minimum wage might be something you might want to pick up and run with here when we open up the telephone lines. It's an open hour. Normal rules apply. You can talk about whatever it is on your mind, and we welcome all opinions. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Open hour after the news. All right, welcome back. It is time for the open hour. The telephone lines are open. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. As I mentioned before the break, normal rules apply. You can bring anything to the table during these open hours. That's the beauty of open line radio. But I am curious to see what your thoughts are on minimum wage. And, of course, we can continue our debate on the property tax assessments. I'd like to start the open hour off with an email. And it reads like this, and it comes to us from Ken. And Ken writes, I mean no offense to you, Dan, so please don't take this personal as it's not my intent. I don't take anything personal when it comes to what we discuss here. It's all part of the discussion. But anyway, as you get older, life should get easier. But it appears that you, being me, disagree. In the past, you've advocated for restricting senior citizens' driving, thereby taking away what little autonomy they have. Now you're suggesting we remove their property tax cap. Many seniors are existing on a fixed income, unlike those younger couples. And please remember, the young are our future seniors. I suspect their opinion may evolve with age, as has mine. He said, I'll soon be 72. But I find it odd, I find it odd, a similar talk I'm not sure what he meant there, about taking away rights exclusive to Aboriginal Canadians. People would scream at bigotry. I wonder if your opinion would be the same. I truly think it would. Ageism is a bias again that many seniors face. In many cultures, the elderly considered an asset to society, yet it appears that many North Americans consider them a societal blight. Cheers and take care. And that comes from Ken. Ken, I appreciate the email. I'm going to disagree with you off the first point. Never advocated taking away seniors driving at all. What I'm advocating for is that drivers get tested more than once in their life. And I'm not talking about people over 65, 75, 85. I'm talking people over 16. Up. That's what I said. I never said that it was that seniors were the bad drivers out there, because there's a lot. And they're not all seniors. I'll say that for a fact. Number 2, the property tax cap. First of all, you called it their property tax cap. Everybody has a property tax cap. You don't have to be a senior or have been living in your home for 20 or 30 or 40 years. After that first year, you're capped. But what it is creating is an unlevel playing field for everybody. I have not heard a good argument yet to suggest that I pay more for my services than my neighbor does across the street when everything's equal, except that I bought my house sooner than they did. Maybe that's what we'll discuss today. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Donna, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. And I've got a little story. True story. I had to move because I couldn't do steps any longer. Anyway, I couldn't find an apartment, so second choice was to buy a condo. Mm-hmm. So in July of 2024, I bought a condo. I had to pay $415. To me, it was overpriced, but anyway. Then I was paying around $3,000 in taxes, maybe a little less, whatever. And then I got an assessment that my condo was assessed at $413, $2,000 less than I paid for it. Then the next week, I got a tax bill, property bill or whatever you call it, and my taxes went up to $4,700, almost $150 more a month. And I was shocked, and so I called the assessment board, and the lady that I was talking to, she said, well, all the houses in your area are selling for over $500,000. And I said, well, if you can find someone that'll buy my place for $500,000, I'll sell it today.
No doubt.
And anyway, she didn't say too much. But I said, and I also said to her, the original owner that bought this place where I'm living, let's say they paid less than $200,000. They sold it for over $4,000, so they doubled their money. And I said to her, I paid $415. I said, can I double my money? She said, well, probably not. So, I mean, do you know what I mean? So this cap is ridiculous. And but anyway, it is what it is. So the assessment people aren't coming, and that's what I've got to pay. So it's another $150 a month. And I'm a senior, too. I don't get any senior rebates. I don't get anything. I know people that live in places that are worth over $1 million, and they have hundreds of thousands in the bank, but they get the light bill rebates because on paper they're not showing that their income is much, even though they're living in, expensive houses.
Yeah, there's always people that take advantage of the system, right?
Yep. But then they get breaks on their taxes too. But anyway, that's my story. So, and I kind of feel sorry for young people. I'm okay, but I feel sorry for a young person that bought a house that paid $700,000-800,000 or had to pay that with a family. And what a shocker it must have been for their tax bill. Could be a lot more than $150 a month.
You bet.
Than what mine was. But that's my story. That's my little personal story, but nobody knows me, so
I appreciate
don't mind telling it.
Thanks, Donna.
Okay, have a good day. Thanks for taking my call.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Back to the phone lines, and we welcome Chris to the show. Chris, how are you?
I'm good this afternoon. How are you?
Hey, you were a star last night.
What are you talking about?
They were debating the property cap assessment on at City Council, and they mentioned you by name.
Do I have to go get a bulletproof vest?
No, it was funny. I think it was Councillor Hensby that mentioned it because they were talking about how the discussion of this has been quite busy on talk radio, and they mentioned Chris by name. So I just thought I'd pass that along in case you missed it.
Oh, that's what the lineup out my driveway wanting autographs is for, I guess.
Fair enough. What's on your mind today?
Look, the lady that just called, if she bought in 24, her rate of assessment should be capped at this point.
Yeah.
And if I were her, I would check with Property Valuation Services to make sure that they've done it, because they're supposed to automatically do it. And this is the problem. If they're not automatically doing it after the first year of ownership, there may be a hell of a lot of people out there that are paying more taxes than they should because they should be capped. Anyway, I just wanted to bring up the point that there's a 4% pay increase coming to our councillors, retroactive to November 1st.
Okay.
Were you?
No, actually, I wasn't. I hadn't looked into it.
Yeah. Well, of course, they have a commission or a board that's set up to calculate the increase and this and that. You'll hear this from the councillors, but I just thought people should be made aware of that, and I think it's a little bit egregious, to say the least, to be accepting or even anybody, commission or otherwise, to propose to them a 4% when we're looking at a 10.5% increase in property taxes. That's ridiculous.
Certainly a bad look.
Well, it's a bad look, and I'm hoping if there's any councillors out there listening to this show, which I'm sure there are some.
Well, they are. They were talking about you yesterday.
I hope that you guys have the guts to at least bring it up at council for debate and turn this thing down. I don't want to hear that you can't turn it down. I don't want to hear that, well, we have nothing to do with it. It's calculated by an independent body. I don't want to hear that. You as council, you can raise our taxes whenever you deem it necessary to do it. You can raise costs of fees and services whenever you think it's right to do it. You can certainly bring up your own pay and turn it down if you think it's the right thing to do. So take a lead in this and show a little initiative and do it. They talk about wanting to make it more equitable for young people and new home buyers, but yet they're debating increasing the deed transfer tax, which in my opinion is a money grab and a rip-off from the get-go. The city does nothing. They don't register your deed. They don't do anything. It's just a money grab.
And they want to double it.
And they want to double it. How is that helping home ownership?
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Also, the cap, they did the same thing with the rental cap as they did with this property cap. The cap should have been legislated to attach itself to the property, not to the person living in the property. It should have been the property. So if I sell my cap property to you, Dan, you are automatically carrying on under that cap. The same as the rent. And you're a renter, right?
Yes, sir.
You go across the hall and you might have to pay, what did we say, $1,000 next door, $1,000 more.
Yep.
Okay? When they instituted the cap, and I brought this up to a couple of the MLAs, it went nowhere because they're too stupid to understand. The cap on the rent should have been attached, and the control of rent pricing should have been attached to the apartment unit, not to the person that's living there. Because when that person leaves, you go rent it, and it's $1,000 more. The way the system used to work when I was under that system as a landlord, we had rent controls for a long time, and they worked just fine as far as I'm concerned. It mitigated things for tenants, and the landlords, we didn't lose money because of it. No matter what anyone might tell you, we didn't lose money. And it was attached to the unit. So if you moved into the unit or I moved into the unit, it was still the same price. The landlord could not raise it more than what that controlled cap was at that given point in time. The same should have been done or should be done to the capped assessments on the real estate as well.
Chris, appreciate the call, sir.
Dan, thanks very much.
Take care. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Open hour continues after the break. All right, welcome back. Open hour continues. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. A few lines open if you want to get into the discussion. Again, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Gloria.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
How'd you like the winter weather?
Oh, well, it's getting bright out there. It looks like the sun might even pop out now.
Yeah, I'm going out pretty soon. I think it's all over.
You bet.
Dan, there's a lot of misleading information. Our taxes have nothing to do with the services we receive. Our taxes are based on the market value of our property or the estimated market value. Nobody knows what the real value is until it sells. And when Sam Austin talks about his house and the older one across the street similar that sold and their taxes are more, that's because when they bought it, they determined the market value of that property. That's why their taxes are higher. It has nothing to do with the services or they look alike. And his will, that's why your assessment increases every year, because they look at the sales around you and they say, well, the estimated market value now is this because we have the market to prove it. And that's some misleading information out there. You can look at two apartment buildings, Dan. They look exactly the same. They're the same inside. One is worth more than the other. They're done on the income approach. And if I'm have an apartment building where all the rents are capped, my value is going to be less than the one where the rents aren't capped, even though they're totally the same building.
Okay. Gloria, you said that our taxes don't go to pay for our services, right? But the money
go to pay for our services,
right?
But they're not based on the services we receive.
Okay, I understand what you mean. So you're obviously you were an assessor for a long time, so you know this much better than I. Just for a point of clarity, if I bought that house across the street from Sam Austin that you're talking about, and year one I get the full whack, right? I get whatever the assessed value
year you
is.
Get the cap.
But then I'm capped at what I paid this year plus whatever the increase is under the cap, correct?
Exactly.
So I'm still going to be paying.
You determined the market value of that property when you bought it.
So everybody if you walk down a street, right, if it's got 10 houses on it, then there's 10 houses paying a different tax bill every year based on when they sold their houses.
What the assessment department does then, when they look at the values as of January the 1st, they'll look at all the sales in the neighborhood. That's why they decide properties will go up 5%, 10%, or whatever. Because when you bought that property, you gave them cause to look at all the other properties in the neighborhood.
Right. So can you see where the argument is where people are concerned about fairness with taxation with this?
Well, we know the only true things that we know are death and taxation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And when you buy a property, you better be able to budget because you know how much you paid for that property, and you know your assessment is going to go up because you determine the market value. And the taxes are going to be very different than they were before you bought it.
It happens quite often. I hear it quite frequently.
Yes.
I hear it quite frequently that people, you get an estimate of what you think the tax is on. It's much more when you actually get your bill.
Well, who gave you the estimate? Somebody gave wrong information.
Right, because they base it on what they paid the previous year, right, which would be under the cap, and it wouldn't be even close.
I mean, come on. But as I said, I'm not faulting people because so many people don't understand assessment.
Right.
They don't understand how the properties are valued. And that's the reason you have different tax bills, because you determine what your property was worth when you bought it, and you're going to pay for it.
Gloria, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's, where are we here? Matthew, how are you? Lost my spot.
Good.
How are you today?
Good, sir. I just want to add one thing about the counselor's tax or a pay increase.
Yeah.
If any of them wanted to look like the hero, they should just vote against it because the rest of them are going to support it. But
right.
If I'm a counselor, I'm voting against it so I look like the good guy, knowing that
it's going to pass anyway.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. Yep.
Right. But regarding the property tax, the last caller kind of confused me because On an assessment, it shows both values. It shows the assessed value and the capped value.
Right.
So they're not paying tax on what they paid for. They're paying tax on the capped value.
On the assessment value. You're correct.
So she kind of lost you there a little bit. But
And she's right. You know, it certainly is confusing. You know, just a layperson that pays their taxes every year with all these different numbers that are floating around. Everybody kind of has a different take on how this whole system works, right?
Yeah. I'm in real estate. I'm going to throw some numbers your way.
Sure.
So I had a client look at a house. It's semi-detached, which most people call a duplex. It's technically not a duplex, but the property tax on these are the exact same house, side by side. Okay. And the property tax was 2.3 times higher on the connecting unit. One of them was $5,800. The other, I think it's a senior. They've been there forever, paying $2,300 per year. It's the exact same house
on the same piece of property.
I think I don't know. When you hear that, something hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I don't know what they can do, but that's 2.3 times higher for the. It's the same house, really. It just has a wall separating it. And regarding buying a home nowadays, people really need to stop saying they had it just as hard in the 80s or whenever, because I'll give you some figures here. If you buy a house at $500,000, which is below the median price, the property tax will be approximately $5,000 a year. The deed transfer tax off the rip is $7,500. They're also paying a lawyer $1,500 who's actually transferring the deed. That tax is a scam.
Right.
And what a lot of people forget about, well, then there's the down payment, by the way. So you have to have 5% down, which is approximately $25,000. And if you put down the minimum, you pay mortgage insurance.
Yeah, CMHC insurance. Yeah.
Which is about $10,000 you pay. Now that can be added to the mortgage, but you're still paying it. So that's about $10,000. And I mean, come on, you can't say you had it just as hard in the 80s.
Well,
numbers like
you know,
that. Very real numbers. I didn't exaggerate one of those.
And I get it, Matthew, but in the 80s we weren't making near as much as we were, right? Interest rates were sometimes at 11 or 12%. So, I mean, there were struggles in the 80s as well.
Irrelevant.
Why is it irrelevant?
Because the prices now are, if you side by side with inflation, they're not even close.
No, I get it. And the property values have risen much more than inflation or the cost of living. I understand that part. Yes. 2
points is that people really need to just consider how expensive everything I just said is to purchase a home.
Yep.
And that's below the median price. And something's got to be done. I don't know what they can do because they can't just remove the cap. That won't happen. But they got to do something because it's not right that next door neighbors pay over double tax.
Matthew, appreciate the call, sir.
Bye.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Open hour continues after the news. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. The open hour continues. The telephone number is 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Buddy to the program. Buddy, how are you?
Not too bad, Dan. Yourself?
I'm well, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, you sound pretty well. Anyway, you're doing a fine job of filling a big set of shoes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, I was on the other day and you had a couple of counselors on there. Hensby was one of them, and I can't remember the lady.
Counselor White.
White, okay, there you go. Counselor White was the only one that gave me a little bit of an answer, but I wasn't impressed with her answer. She started talking about Uber. Anyway, I drive taxi, been driving taxi for a long time. Now, just recently, City Council got together and they upped the rate for taxis. They brought it up to $6.40, okay? Well,
that's kilometer, is it?
That's the drop.
Okay.
Get in the car.
Okay, the drop is $6.40. What's the kilometer rate? I'm just curious.
It's about $1, or I'm not 100% sure what it is. Anyway, I won't give you that.
Sure.
I don't know for sure.
No, I get it.
Anyway,
that's fair. Yep.
Yep. Anyway, then all of a sudden, Casino Taxi decided, well, $6.40 is too much. We're going to lose business and we're going to lose competition and the whole 9 yards. So they dropped the rate to $5.40. So I would say that casino taxi is a part of the council. In my mind, I would say that, because if the prices are set by city council, why casino could step in and change it, I'll never know. Because one thing, the guys that drive for casino are paying $170 a week times 400 cars. That's a pretty good lot of income. Anyway, and they also get all the government contracts that's on the go.
Really?
So,
Buddy, forgive me, it's been a while since I've talked about the taxi industry. Casino is still the largest company in HRM, right?
That's right. Yeah,
okay.
100% right. But that's, if you multiply $170 times 170 bucks times 400 cars, you get a pretty good sum of money.
Is that the roof light thing? Is that what they pay to have the light? Is that the way that works?
No. We all get our own lights pretty much.
Okay.
But you pay to the company $170 a week to receive calls from the company.
Like a dispatch fee, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah, no, that's your right term. You got it right there.
Okay.
And so they're making money. I'm not knocking them about making money, but I'm just wondering why they could change the rates from $6.40 down to $5.40.
Well, they obviously had some sway within that committee, right?
Well, I don't know about sway, but if city council sets something at a certain price, it's like taxes for your house. If they set it at a certain price and everybody got together and said, "Hey, we're not paying that," what's the outcome?
Right, exactly. Probably tell you where to go. Hey, buddy, very quickly before I let you go, you've been driving for a long time, right? Is it? Yeah. Are you still able to make ends meet driving a cab these days?
Well, if you want to put the hours in, if you want to chase the drives, yes, you can.
But it's a struggle now as compared to it was, say, 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, you're definitely right, because we got Uber here now, and we also got ULift, which is two competitions. ULift is a Canadian company, and Uber is a U.S. company. When you grab an Uber, you're paying into the U.S. economy.
Buddy, I appreciate the information, and I appreciate the call.
All right, my man.
Have a good one.
I'll listen to you from now to ever. Thanks a lot.
All right, buddy. Cheers. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Interesting that you can fight City Hall and to take Buddy's complaint the other way and suggest that the biggest company said that we were charging too much for a drop rate. That might be good for the consumer, right? Because now when you get in the car, it was supposed to be $6.40, now it's $5.40. That's why I was curious as to what the kilometer charge was. But anyway, moving forward, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Ken.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
Good. I'm just curious. I was watching the CTV news, and I was surprised to hear it up on your guys' station. The money that they're giving to Ukraine again,
230 million, is it? Is that what it was? I just saw a headline today.
235 they announced today.
Right.
From let me get this straight here. From 2022 until present, we have given them $22 billion. That's what it'd be, $22 billion. And there's another $6.5 billion earmarked for between now and 2029. I mean, seriously, Dan, how much is going to be enough? Are we going to run ourselves into a third world country supporting this stuff? Meanwhile, now Trump backs off everything of his, right? You know what he's doing. He's letting everybody else support him. He's saving his money. And then when we all run dry, then he's going to go in there and collect all the what do you call it, the critical minerals, because he has a stake in Ukraine, and it's a critical minerals, right? Kearney sold them our rights over in Ontario, but it's not developed yet.
Right.
Right. So he's got to wait a few years for that. So why not pull all the support, right? if I was NATO, I'd say, yep, your money's just run dry, right?
So we let
Trump,
Russia just run Ukraine right over and it become a Russian state.
Well, you know what? How many aircraft carriers are sitting right off the coast of Russia now?
No idea.
Right? I'm guaranteeing you there's nuclear subs, there's aircraft carriers, there's everything pointed right at Russia today. And if they ever tried to go in there full force, the states would be in there in a heartbeat. But they don't want to play. He wants to be seen as the peacemaker when he's not. Always looking for some critical minerals. That's it. Right? So, but they're draining us dry.
So
my
go ahead.
point is for the military, they're clawing back $4 billion on veterans over the next 4 years.
Yeah, with the new funding formula, I agree with you there.
And as you know, the military bank accounts are not supposed to be touched. That's different from the federal government altogether. And he did it. Harper did it. Trudeau did it. The whole 9 yards. They're all three of them should be charged, right? And the same thing with the seniors. The seniors can't afford their meds. They can't afford their rent. They're 6 months away from living in a tent. And this guy continues to give money to Ukraine. And where do they buy the stuff from? From Trump. Why Trump? Well, because Trump gave him $80 billion for Brookfield. And he keeps saying, 650,000 houses. How many have they built so far?
Well, they're going to do 2,600 in 5 years. That's a pales in comparison. Ken, I'm out of time. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I think that Canada has a role to play in supporting Ukraine. But when you do put the numbers together, and it's an awful lot of money, right? But if the coalition of the willing, as it's called, that's most of Europe and Canada don't do anything, then I shudder to think of what will happen to Ukraine, because Donald Trump tends to use that as his negotiating tactic, right? He's negotiating with Russia right now for a peace agreement, and Ukraine's not even at the table. Doesn't make any sense to me. We're back after the break. All right, welcome back. A few minutes left. Lots of people on the line, so I'm going to try to get to as many calls as we can. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We welcome Gail to the show. Gail, how are you?
I'm calling about the property tax. Mm-hmm. I'm a senior on a fixed income. I bought my family home, which was 70 years old. I had to pay for it. At the tax thing, I think it's okay if they raise it a little bit. I think 10% is way too high. Maybe they could cut it in half. Sometimes I think they put that number out just to scare people.
I don't think there's any doubt, Gail. I think that's exactly what they do.
My house, I was listening to Mrs. McCluskey. My house is not renovated, so even though it's in a decent neighborhood, it's not going to sell for what the newer ones go. I think people buying a house today need to find out the taxes before they buy. I always did.
Great, 100%. Yep.
With the amount of new residents, they have a larger tax base now? I mean, the city has grown. I personally don't like to see it turn into Toronto, but
well, that's the theory, is that the tax base would grow, right? So
yeah, and people that have had these homes for a long time have been paying taxes for a long time. Mm-hmm. But I just think people buying a new house or a house new to them, it's easy enough to find out what your taxes are going to be, and you got to factor that into what you can afford.
It's all part of the equation, Gail. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Where are we next? Let's go. David. David, how are you?
Hey, Dan. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Haven't
I'm
heard
great
from
today.
you in a while. It's been a while.
Well, things going down. Busy.
What's going on in District 7?
Like District 7, well, lots more going on than we heard on Monday. That's what I'll quickly answer that. We've got the biggest real estate development happening in the city on the corner of Spring Garden and Roby.
Yep.
And that wasn't even mentioned on Monday's call.
A lot of old houses got knocked down for that, eh?
Yeah, that's one thing, but 4 Fenwick towers going up, 120 stories of 130 combined stories.
Oh, combined. I'm like, oh, wow, that's one big building, but there's 4 of them, right?
There's 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, what about water? I mean, you heard Halifax Water talking about, well, we got to figure out what's going on. We'll let you know in a year. Do you realize there almost wasn't enough water pressure to fight the Weg-Waltic Club fire? Do you realize there's not enough water pressure to fight a fire in Point Pleasant Park? And then they're going to put in 4 buildings with all those people? But anyway, that's not why I'm calling.
Go ahead.
3 quickies for you.
Yep.
The comment earlier about how things are tougher now than a year ago. 50 years ago, I bought my first condo in 1985. My interest rate was 18%.
Wow.
And now people are moaning about 4%, 5%. It was tough back then. But the other thing I wanted to talk about this morning was, do you realize there's a new blanket? And this is important because you've had 2 great callers on today, Gloria, the Queen, and Chris, her successor maybe.
Okay.
But there's a blanket at City Hall, and the blanket is the wool that's being pulled over our eyes. There's 2 transparent media sources in Halifax, you and All Nova Scotia. And All Nova Scotia published today that the councillors are getting a 4% salary increase effective November the 1st. They'll now make 100. They'll now make 107. The mayor will make 217, and on and on and on. Read it, and you can comment tomorrow.
I'll do that.
But that's going on. The final thing is this whole cap thing. It's obvious people don't know all the details. We need an education town hall or something like that in the city on the cap. And for God's sakes, don't let the city run it. Either have the real estate agents or, I don't know, make Gloria chair it, because this is getting bad. And people don't understand the whole principle behind what the cap was for. And the whole thing about 2 townhouses next to each other having different rates. Well, of course they do, because they were bought at different times, and the value of the property is based on a real-time value property.
I get it, but doesn't it create an artificial environment? I mean, all I'm asking for is fairness, right?
Well, if you can change the capitalistic system of real estate, you're the king to match Gloria. You can't do it because it's based on what happens on your street and what's in the environment. So if I'm at Unit 1 that I bought 10 years ago, and Buddy at Unit 2 has bought his now, and they're identical buildings, his price is different because his is 10 years later, and the whole environment has changed in those 10 years, regardless of whether the properties were built by the same carpenter 10 years ago.
And I understand where you're coming from, David, but I just can't get my head wrapped around how unfair that is to everybody involved.
Well, the world isn't fair, and that's how it works, unfortunately. There's also a rumor going out there that all these developers in town are buying these houses, tearing them down, and as a result of that, reducing the property value on the lots, and then taking advantage of that reduced property value on their assessments.
Because, as I understood from council last night, a apartment building that is over 4 units is not capped. That's what I understand it is.
Exactly. Well, there's a few other little things in there as well, but yeah. And so,
okay.
We need everything on the table, and the wool blanket year after year after year gets pulled upon our eyes. And so the fake value was issued last month. Then it'll change a little in January, then a little in February. The councillors won't know what's going on. You'll have these poorly managed town halls, if you will. Nothing will get discussed. I mean, last year there were 3 tiny little motions put in the capital budget for about $100,000 each to consult on, get this, how to tear down the former Memorial Library. How to tear it down. There wasn't anything about discussing anything with the public. about the value of it and why it should be saved and the poorhouse graves there. You know, things have gotten so big at the city, things just slip under that wool blanket. Anyway, we got to get rid of the wool blanket. We got to get more engagement and more transparency and help everybody.
Thanks, David.
Cheers, man. Bye.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Last word today goes to Keith. Keith, how are you?
Pretty good, Dan. Thanks for taking me in.
Sure.
I'll be quick. I think they should get rid of the property evaluation service. They should really get rid of property taxes, period. If you buy a home, you should own it and not have to pay every year. But if they are going to take the cap off, then how about they charge you for what you paid for your property instead of what their assessments are? And I bought a property on the Eastern Shore for $25,000 about 25 years ago. I put an old mobile home on it. It was $3,000 at the time. My property evaluation now is over $200,000. There's been nothing done to this land except for and the trailer. And anyways, so if they got rid of property evaluation service and a new person comes in and buys a home and it's a lot more expensive than someone that lives in the neighborhood, then they can pay the taxes on it. And don't have a cap. Just have a flat rate for everybody.
Keith, you said earlier that we should get rid of property tax altogether. And that's an interesting statement. How do we pay for stuff then?
Well, I don't know. The councillors can figure out another way. I don't know.
Okay, Keith, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
That's going to do it, folks. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your day, dialing the numbers, and joining the show. And I learn things every day. I really do. And I look forward to the open hours each and every weekday that we do this. Thanks to Gloria for setting me straight. I still don't get it. And maybe I never will get it. And maybe I'll never get my head wrapped around how a property that is a property is paying more than double the property tax than its neighbor. I don't understand it. But I will reiterate what I heard around the council table last night. And many councillors are thinking the same way that I am. However, I don't think a single one of them wants to go down this road. So are we going to see the property tax assessment cap changed? Not likely. But I think a discussion is always good. And look, we've talked about it for 3 days now. And lots of valued opinions. And maybe some that are a little off the wall. But we take all opinions here on the program, and I look forward to it every day. Thank you to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass, who does fantastic work each and every day. Can't do the show without her. She's the best. And, well, I think we should give her a medal or something. We'll have to see if that's in the budget. Oh, thank you to all of our guests who took time out of their days. She shakes her head when I do this every time. Well, thank you to all of our guests who took time out of their days to share their thoughts and their expertise on matters. It certainly makes for an interesting day. Tomorrow is the Thursday edition of the program, folks. The Canadian Food Price Report is out, and one of the authors of is, I do believe he is an author of it, is the food professor himself. Sylvain Charlebois will be joining us to talk about that. We're going to also take a look at guaranteed basic income. Is that something that maybe we fix things with? We'll have to take a look at that. And, of course, we'll do another open hour at 11 o'clock tomorrow, and I look forward to it. Until then, everybody, get out there. The rain stopped, and enjoy what Nova Scotia has to offer. We're so lucky to live here. People spend thousands of dollars to come here. Be well and be kind to one another.